gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you've had a nice week. It's Friday, one more sleep, and then we get Indiana football, and then we get Colts football, and it's going to be a fantastic weekend. Let's start. We're talking about last night's Thursday night football game. I don't know if you watched it or not. Hopefully you did. I got to be honest, I loved watching that game because before the season started, I said that the Rams were going to lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and then I watched that game, and I just felt so much better about that prediction because the Rams looked like an entirely different football team last night. They looked so much better, right? They were 2-4 coming off of 3 straight games where they failed to score more than 20 points. And then last night against a good Vikings defense, they score 30. And it's like, well, yeah, Jonathan, of course they did. It's because Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp came back. Yeah, and you're exactly right. That's why they looked so much better. Now the Rams are 3-4 with a real chance at winning their division and making the playoffs, right? And it's all because they're finally healthy again on offense. Right, another team out west that's 3-4 on the year is the 49ers. And it's not because their roster isn't good. It's because they've just been incredibly banged up. Christian McCaffrey hasn't played all year. Now, Brandon Ayuk is out for the year. Deebo Samuel didn't play in their last game. And you can just keep on reading off the injuries because the 49ers have dealt with a lot of them. Injuries are important. They are the most important aspect of any sport, of any game, of any matchup. Okay, just take the Pacers last year. A large part of why they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals was because other teams got hurt. That's the simple truth of it. Okay, and while of course the Pacers stayed healthy, right? And then you look at the World Series tonight. The Yankees and Dodgers have done a good job of staying healthy. Like, for example, Garrett Cole, who's going to pitch tonight for the Yankees, if he'd gotten hurt and hadn't pitched in the playoffs, then the Yankees probably wouldn't be playing in the World Series. Okay, injuries are incredibly important in each and every single sport. I say all that to say that the Colts are 5.5-point underdogs against the Texans on Sunday. And that number doesn't feel right. That number feels too high considering all of the injuries that the Houston Texans are dealing with while the Colts are getting healthier. The Texans have multiple starters on IR. Okay, their best receiver, Nico Collins, being one of them. And then when you look at the injury report for the week, they've got 4 defenders that didn't practice yesterday. The Texans are not healthy. They are incredibly banged up. And then for the Colts, they are getting healthy. Okay, like most of their roster didn't play last week. That's what it feels like. Most of the roster didn't play last week against the Dolphins. They were able to sneak out a win there, 16-10. And now, because they gave all those guys that extra week of rest, they are much healthier. Everyone listed on the injury report yesterday was a full participant except for Jannard Avery and Jalen Carleys. Okay, those 2 players normally don't play a ton when the starters are healthy. The Colts appear to be the healthier team heading into this game, and that's a big deal, especially since that means that DeForest Buckner and Jonathan Taylor could return to action this week. The Colts need DeForest Buckner back because this defense is horrendously bad without him. He's their best defensive lineman. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. Okay, he was a full participant at practice yesterday, and yesterday before practice, he was asked a bunch of questions about his injury and how he's been progressing over these past few weeks.
Buck, how you feeling being back out there for practice this week?
It feels great. Obviously, the longest time I've ever, been, obviously away from the game, throughout the season. So, started going a little stir crazy towards the end of my little stay, but I'm excited to be out there.
What are the chances you get back on the field for the game this week, you think?
Just taking it one day at a time, hoping for progress each and every day. But I mean, I'm being hopeful.
What are the things that you need to see to give yourself a chance to return to the field for game action?
Yeah, honestly, just all the different movements. Especially, I mean, it's a big pass rush day today. I do a lot of cutting and wiggling and stuff like that. So we're gonna see how it feels, today.
That was Colts starting defensive tackle DeForest Buckner, who's working his way back from the injured reserve. Things are clearly getting better for him. He was a full participant yesterday at practice, and hopefully he is once again today, because the Colts need him, especially when you consider that they gave up 160 rushing yards to Joe Mixon in week 1, and he is one of the few Houston Texans that's actually healthy, right? So getting DeForest Buckner back would be huge for the Colts, and so would having Jonathan Taylor return to action, right? He just makes this run game so much better. Not that it's been bad since he's gone out, but it was clearly better when he was there. He's working back from a high ankle sprain, and he was asked yesterday as well how he's progressing through his, ankle rehab.
Jonathan, how did it feel to get back to practice after some time off?
Yeah, it felt good. Anytime you're removed from the field and, you just get to get back on the field, it's a great feeling. You're not sitting there watching, you're not watching your guys go out there and just have fun and run around. So, but you're definitely supporting them, but you want to be out there with them. So it felt really good. It felt really good to be out there again.
You talked last week about how just difficult it was to do certain movements with that ankle. Are you closer to that?
Yeah, definitely. And the fact that I'm on the field now is way better. Even though it was limited work, some individual stuff yesterday, I just can't wait to go out there again today with a bit more work and see how it feels. But it felt great to finally be out there, because the training room, it's a great place, but that's not really where you want to be.
Given that you feel that good coming out of yesterday, you're taking on a little bit more. What's the likelihood you give yourself of being out there on Sunday?
Well, I never want to put negativity in the air, so I'm always going to say I think that I'm going to play, because you never want to put that negativity in the air. I'm all about manifestation. But like I said, I'm excited for today. Like I said, limited work yesterday, but I'm excited to get a little bit more today.
Jonathan Taylor right there talking about his ankle and how he's progressing, and hopefully he can play on Sunday. Apparently, Jonathan Taylor is all about manifestation as well. So, there's back. Either way, though, getting two of the best players on this Colts roster back would be huge, in DeForest Buckner and Jonathan Taylor, especially since the Texans could possibly missing some of their better players. The healthier team, which as of right now, it looks like the Colts are, always has a chance to win. Okay? Like if the Colts are rolling out, 19 of their normal 22 starters, and the Texans are rolling out 12 of their normal 22, then I really like the Colts' chances to come out victorious in this game. Here's the other thing, though. The Texans do have the better quarterback, because CJ Stroud is going to play. And the team with the better quarterback tends to have the better chance to win, too. So something has to give here. Okay, and when looking at Houston and, watching their games and figuring out what they're not good at is protecting the future of their franchise, CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud has been sacked 20 times this year, which is the third most in the NFL. This is a Colts defensive line that is built to get after the quarterback. That is what they are designed to do. Chris Ballard has made that abundantly clear, and there's clearly been an emphasis on it ever since Chris Ballard showed up, right? They're dropping first-round picks on defensive linemen left and right? And when you look back at that week 1 game, if you go back and you watch it, you'll realize that the Colts had CJ Stroud under duress the entire game. They sacked Stroud 4 times. They hit him an additional 10 times on 32 dropbacks. So on 32 dropbacks, CJ Stroud was hit or sacked 14 times. That's a really good percentage from this Colts defense. Now, this Colts defensive line isn't entirely healthy. Tyquan Lewis is still on IR, right? DeForest Buckner working his way back. Even if he does play, will he be limited? We don't really know that yet. Okay, so with that being said, though, this defensive line should be deep enough and talented enough to make an impact on how CJ Stroud plays on Sunday, like they did in week 1. This is a great opportunity for the Colts defense to turn around the narrative that's been established about them. And this narrative is pretty simple. This Colts defense isn't very good. Okay, they have an opportunity on Sunday to change that. Gus Bradley told us earlier this week in his press conference on Tuesday that he believes that they've corrected some of these issues on defense. And we're going to find out whether or not that's true on Sunday. Because if the defense plays well, it's hard not to like the Colts here, because I know that the offense didn't look great last week, right? But I just still have a tendency to believe in Shane Steichen and his ability to help the Colts score points no matter who's playing quarterback, right? But obviously, the offense has to play well in order for the Colts to win, because, this Colts defense, a great game from them doesn't involve a shutout of the Houston Texans. So the offense has to play well too, with Jonathan Taylor coming back. I like their chances. Okay, Jonathan Taylor's found a lot of success against the Texans during his career. He's played 7 games against Houston. He's ran for just under 900 yards, 8 touchdowns with a yards per carry of 5.7. Okay, he is the Texan killer. Okay, and so hopefully he's back in the lineup. That will greatly help this Colts run game, especially since he's going to be standing by Anthony Richardson, who is obviously very skilled in running the football himself. Okay, Jonathan Taylor just takes this offense to a different level. He makes them so much tougher to stop. And if the Colts can run the ball well against this banged up and injured Houston Texans defense, then they'll be harder to beat. And that's just the simple reality of it. Okay? And here's the thing, though. The Colts' ability to run the ball will undoubtedly make them tougher to beat. But you still have to throw the football. Okay? It is a requirement in the NFL that you have a quarterback who can make throws. And Anthony Richardson, I don't think he has to be great to win this game. Okay? If he can just be good, if he can just be decent with this Texans defense being banged up, the Colts should win this game. If he could just be decent. Okay? Because when it comes to Houston with Nico Collins being out and the injuries that they have on defense, they just aren't going to be as good because of that. The offense won't be as prolific as it can be, especially when Nico Collins is in the lineup. Okay, and their defense is more banged up than their offense. Anthony Richardson doesn't have to throw for 300 yards and complete 70% of his passes in order for the Colts to win this game, especially if he runs the ball well like he did last week. He just has to do the thing that Colts fans have been begging for him to do. Okay, he just has to do the one thing that's led to so many Colts fans wanting for Joe Flacco to play. He just has to be consistent. Okay, I don't expect for Anthony Richardson to convert every third down, and I don't expect him to be pinpoint accurate on every play. Even Mahomes doesn't do that. Okay, but if he can just be a little more efficient on third down, then the Colts are going to win this game. If he can just keep drives alive, which the Colts have actually done a pretty good job of, their third down conversion rate is at 40%. That's 11th in the NFL. So they've been pretty good on third down, but there's definitely room for them to be better if Anthony Richardson can just be a little bit more accurate on those plays. Okay, so Colts got to be more efficient on third down. I have no doubt that the Colts will create some explosive plays in the passing game. That's what Shane Steichen wants to do. And they created them in week 1, right? He had, Anthony Richardson had 3 passes of over 50 yards. Okay, so I expect for them to create some explosive plays. And that's going to be easier to do with Jonathan Taylor back in the lineup and the Texans really having to worry about him and their ability to run the ball. Okay, so I expect for the Colts to run the ball well on Sunday. I expect for them to hit on a couple big plays, right? But ultimately, whether or not the Colts win, it's going to be dependent upon Anthony Richardson and his ability to keep drives alive, to convert 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. I don't care if he does it with his legs. I don't care if he does it with his arm. As long as he can just keep drives alive, give that Colts defense a chance to rest, unlike what happened in week 1 when the defense was on the field for 40 minutes. Okay, I like the Colts' chances to win on Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they won on Sunday, given how much healthier they are than the Houston Texans. But I am taking the Houston Texans to win. They have the better quarterback. And that's really all that it comes down to. When I don't know who to pick, I'm going to take the team with the better quarterback. And you and I can undoubtedly agree that CJ Stroud is better than Anthony Richardson. And when you look at NFL games, most of them, unless you're playing the Panthers, they're close. All right. And the difference is usually 3 or 4 plays. And I just think that CJ Stroud's going to find a way to make a few plays that Anthony Richardson won't. And that will be the difference. I'll take the Texans to win 24-20. So that's the under. I think the over-under is set at like 45.5. So that hits the under. And that also has the Colts covering the 5.5 point spread. Big show today. Zack Gray, he's joining me at 11 o'clock. We're going to get into the college football weekend. He's got bets for that. He's got bets for the NFL. Played baseball with him in college. We'll probably talk a little World Series. He's an Ohio State fan, so we're going to get his thoughts on Indiana and just the Big Ten as a whole. It's going to be great. Speaking of Indiana, when we come back here in 4 minutes, I'm going to talk Washington versus Indiana, who I have winning, all that fun stuff when we come back here in 4 minutes.
Unadulterated sports talk with unfiltered takes. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hope you're having a nice week. Thanks for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, stay tuned in because at 11 o'clock, Zack Gray, the best sports gambler I know, he's a pro. He's joining the show at 11. He's going to give you some college football bets, some NFL bets as well, and then we're going to talk a whole bunch of sports. It's going to be great. It's always a blast when Zack Gray comes on a Friday. Washington, Indiana. Indiana has been a blast to watch play football this year. They are 6.5-point favorites on Saturday tomorrow, despite Curtis Rourke being out. Can't wait for this game. College game day is going to be there, right? Give me all the Indiana football, honestly. Okay, they've been such a blast this year. Okay, and there's going to be a lot of attention on Saturday on Taven Jackson, right? Young dude, talented, Indiana kid, right? I think people are excited to see him play, right? 4-star guy coming out of high school. And I think he's going to handle the game well. But I also don't think it's going to matter in the slightest how well he plays. I don't think it's going to matter at all. I think Indiana's going to line the football up and they're going to run it like crazy because Washington's run defense is not good. They are giving up 143 rushing yards a game, which is 15th out of 18 teams in the Big Ten. Your Indiana Hoosiers are averaging 202 rushing yards a game, which is third in the Big Ten. I expect for the Hoosiers to just line it up, play some big boy football. Welcome to the Big Ten, Washington. I expect them to line it up and just kind of plow right through Washington. Okay? That is fully what I expect. When we look up at the end of the game, we're going to be like, Taven Jackson threw for like 230 yards. And we're going to be like, Indiana's offense also ran for like 250. I think they're going to be able to line it up and just kind of impose their will at the line of scrimmage on this Washington team. That is how I expect for Indiana to generate points through the run game. Okay, and part of why I expect them to run the ball a lot is because it's tough throwing the football against Washington. Washington's giving up the least amount of passing yards per game in the Big Ten. Okay, that, talent that Washington has on the back end, combined with a young and experienced quarterback in Taven Jackson, doesn't exactly seem like a recipe for Indiana to throw the ball all over the yard. Could it happen? Of course it could. Taven Jackson could come out and have the night of his life. We've seen bad quarterbacks be backups and light up other teams before in college football. Not saying that Taven Jackson is bad. I'm just thinking of a couple very specific instances. Notre Dame fans, you'll remember this one. Do you remember when DJ Uiagalelei lit up Notre Dame when he was Trevor Lawrence's backup at Clemson in 2020? Okay, and then DJ went on to play at Oregon State and now Florida State, and he hadn't been very good, right? But from time to time, we get these weird, this backup quarterback had the night of his life one night, in college football. Like we've seen it happen before. Do you remember when Zach Calzada was at Texas A&M and had the night of his life and beat Nick Saban in Alabama in 2021? Neither Calzada nor DJ ended up being good players, right? Like DJ Uiagalelei is on his third team playing at Florida State. They suck. And then Zach Calzada is now playing for an FCS school I've never heard of called, I'm not kidding, the University of the Incarnate Word. No, that's in like San Antonio, okay? Like that is the point. But college football is an incredibly weird sport where sometimes the backup quarterback has the game of his life when the starter can't play for some reason. Okay, we've seen it happen before, both Calzada and the DJ Uiagalelei games, like aren't even all that far removed. And when you look at Washington, they are a good football team, but they're not 2020 Notre Dame, and they definitely are 2021 Alabama. So Taven Jackson could come out and be great. He could come out, throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, and then, we're all going crazy, and it's like, Curtis Rourke, watch out, even though not really. But I wouldn't count on it. And that's not a negative statement about Taven Jackson. It's more about how I think Indiana is going to attack this Washington defense, right? Like, the clear weakness of the Washington Huskies is their ability to defend the run. Okay? And, like, why put the ball in a young, inexperienced quarterback's hands when you can just run the football and have success doing it? I think that's going to be the calling card for this Indiana offense. I think they're going to line it up. They're going to have a lot of success running the football, right? But their defense could struggle, which is just more reason to run the football, shorten the game, take time off the clock. There are 3 teams in the Big Ten that have outgained their opponents in every single game that they've played this year. Those teams are Indiana, Penn State, and Washington. Washington has had a lot of success moving the football this year, right? They've got an older transfer quarterback from Mississippi State in Will Rogers. Okay, Jeb Fish, more of an offensive guy. Okay, like they're going to throw the football. They're going to move the ball. They've done it all year. Okay, but here's the thing, though. Like, I have faith in the Indiana defense to get stops because they've been incredibly impressive this year. Okay, Curtis Rourke is exciting. The fact that Indiana is leading the Big Ten in points per game is exciting. But the best thing about this Indiana team is the way that they play defense. It is. Okay, they're fast, physical. Like, I've talked about it, I feel like, a lot whenever I've discussed this Indiana team. They really play defense. They're fast, they're physical. Their defensive line is good, and that's why they're giving up less than 14 points per game on average this year. But with that being said, if they held Washington to less than 14 points, I'd be stunned. Okay, like, this Washington team is going to move the ball. They have a good, experienced quarterback in Will Rogers. So I'd be very surprised if Indiana stifled this Washington offense in a similar manner to what they did to Nebraska last week. With that being said, Indiana should win this game. They should cover the 6.5 points. If they don't win this game by double digits, I'll be surprised. This line feels a little low. Maybe I'm too high on Indiana after seeing what they did to a good Nebraska team last week. But we'll see. I'm so intrigued by that game tomorrow at noon. Come out to Bourbon and Birdies. You can buy your tickets to that on IndySportsTicket.com. A lot of bourbon, a lot of good food. It's going to be a blast. They're going to have the Indiana game on while, like, during the event. Okay, it's going to be great. So head over to IndySportsTicket.com, buy your ticket to Bourbon and Birdies. If you need something to do tonight, we have more college football. UNLV, Boise State. That's a huge game in terms of which non-Power 4 conference team is going to represent in the college football playoff. UNLV and Boise State kind of leading the charge in that manner. So that game is tonight. That game should be a lot of fun to watch. Another game happening tonight, 7:30. Pacers play the Knicks tonight. I won't lie to you. I'm locked into this game. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, right? Because we got the World Series starting tonight, Colts tomorrow or Sunday, Indiana tomorrow, and those are the primary topics of this show. But when the Pacers play, I like to let you know, because maybe you've got nothing going on tonight and you need a sport to watch. Well, watch your Indiana Pacers in a nationally televised game against the New York Knickerbockers. Like I said, I'm locked into this game because these are two of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. They both have guys that like playing basketball, which is a big deal in this, load management NBA. The 76ers are actually being investigated for not playing Joel Embiid, which is awesome. And I'm glad that the NBA is trying to do something about getting these guys out there on the floor. But it's only game 2 of the year for the Knicks and the Pacers. But it's a rematch from last year's conference semifinals, right? That series went 7 games. It was intense. Pacers go in there game 7 on the road and they win. It was great. Even though it's early in the NBA season, there are definitely some storylines that are being followed, at least on my end, things that I'm tracking, of just what is Rick Carlisle doing with this deep roster? You know, he played 12 guys in game one. Curious to see how he distributes the minutes going forward with this incredibly deep team. And then there's the Knicks, who have an incredibly shallow roster. Like, they've only got like 6 or 7 guys that can really play. You know, they might hold some open tryouts to try to find a couple other guys to kind of fill out that roster. If they do it, I'll send in my LA Fitness pickup tapes. I feel like I could play for Coach Tibbs. I play tough defense. I'm gritty. Let's go. Plus, I can shoot it. Anyway, tonight's game should be fun. That game is at 7:30, right? But if you don't want to watch that, then you're probably going to watch the World Series. I'm going to talk about that coming up at about 10:40, right before we head to break here. I have to give you the Kirk Cousins bet of the week. For those who don't know, Kirk Cousins had a great quote a couple weeks ago that birthed this segment. It's incredible. Here it is.
Walk into your trap, take over your trap. This is the line he would say. You go into someone else's stadium and you try to assert yourself.
Kirk Cousins right there. Walk in your trap, take over your trap. The Kirk Cousins bet of the week is where we take a road underdog to on the money line. We take a road underdog to win. We're picking a team to walk into someone else's stadium, walk into their trap, take over their trap. Wise words right there from Kirk Cousins. Okay, so this week was tough. Like last week, the segment felt great because there were multiple games to pick from. Okay, so this week there aren't as many good options. Okay, like there were last week. So as I was sorting through all the lines, I kind of narrowed it down to 2 different games that I liked. Okay, the Arizona Cardinals are 3.5-point dogs on the road against the Dolphins. I really like that one. And then I also liked the Cowboys. They're 4.5-point underdogs on the road against the 49ers. These seem to be the 2 best options for the Kirk Cousins bet of the week. Okay, but the official Kirk Cousins bet of the week, walk in your trap, take over your trap, is the Cardinals on the money line against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are not good at football. You're going to say, well, Jonathan, Tua is coming back from injury. Isn't that going to fix everything? And the answer is no. Because week 1, Tua played against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this Miami Dolphins offense managed to score 20 points against a bad Jacksonville team. And then week 2, against the Bills, when he got hurt, they were getting thumped before he got hurt. The Dolphins aren't good whether Tua plays quarterback, whether Tyler Huntley plays quarterback, or whether I play quarterback. Okay, the Dolphins aren't good. And I think there's this idea that Tua coming back is going to fix things. It's not. The Cardinals are a good team. They have the better quarterback, and they might have the better coach. I like Jonathan Gannon. I think he does a good job. So give me the better quarterback and give me the Arizona Cardinals winning on the road as a 3.5-point underdog against the Miami Dolphins. The Arizona Cardinals on the money line. That is the Kirk Cousins bet of the week. More bets coming up at 11 o'clock when Zack Gray joins the show. He'll give you an NFL bet, a college football bet. He may even give you some NBA stuff if you want to bet that tonight. Should be a great time when Zack joins at 11. But when we come back here in about 4 minutes, the World Series and Funless Friday, that is what's on the docket. World Series Game 1 tonight between the Yankees and the Dodgers. Can't wait to get into it. Love postseason baseball. It's a fantastic thing to watch. And when we come back in about 4 minutes, we'll talk World Series.
More winners, more often. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hope you've had a nice week. Happy Friday. Thanks for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, if you want to have a great weekend, you should show up to Bourbon and Birdies. A lot of bourbon, a lot of good food. Buy your ticket at indysportsticket.com. It's taking place at Back Nine Golf downtown. Imagine Top Golf, but better. That's what Back Nine is. And then throw in a whole bunch of bourbon and a whole bunch of good food, right? It's going to be a blast. Bourbon and Birdies. Head over to indysportsticket.com and you can buy your ticket, come out, and have a blast. Speaking of a blast, the World Series starts tonight. World Series Game 1. I hate the Yankees. Okay, of every team in sports, they're probably the team I dislike the most. And I don't like the Dodgers either. If it was up to me, neither team would win the series, but it's not up to me. So one of these two teams has to win. I'll probably wind up pulling for the Dodgers because I do like Mookie Betts and I do like Freddie Freeman and I do like Clayton Kershaw. If you didn't know, Matthew Stafford and Clayton Kershaw went to high school together. In case you didn't know, but when this World Series came to be, right, when the Dodgers won the NLCS and the Yankees won the ALCS, people started complaining. Okay, I've seen some complaints about how these are the last two teams standing. Okay, and I'm a believer that the majority opinion isn't always right. Okay, like a lot of times the majority opinion is wrong, actually, and that's okay. And from what I've kind of read and seen, when baseball diehards see this matchup, they see the Dodgers and the Yankees, the two richest teams in baseball, playing for a World Series. And it leads to stupid takes like Major League Baseball needs a salary cap. Those people are wrong. And the basis for their opinion is even more incorrect. This is the first time since 1981, it's 43 years ago, that these two teams have met in the World Series. Okay? And just to further pile it on that baseball isn't all about the richest teams, the Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009. It's been 15 years since the evil empire, the richest franchise in baseball, has won a World Series. And then for the Dodgers, they haven't won it since 2020. Okay? In the past 15 years, neither the Yankees nor the Dodgers have won multiple World Series titles. The list of teams that have won the World Series twice or more since 2009 includes the Giants, who have the 10th highest payroll in baseball this year, the Red Sox, who have the 12th highest payroll in baseball this year, and the Astros, who are, a little more wealthy than some of these other teams. They have the 5th highest payroll in baseball this year. My point is, the team that wins the World Series usually isn't the richest team. Teams like the Royals, who have the 21st highest payroll in baseball this year, teams like the Braves, who have the 8th highest payroll in baseball this year, the Nationals, who have the 19th highest payroll in baseball this year, the Cardinals, who have the 11th highest payroll in baseball this year, they all have as many World Series titles in the last 15 years as the Yankees and the Dodgers do. For some reason, casual baseball fans, maybe it's the diehards, there's like this belief that the rich teams just kind of dominate the sport. And like, that's just not true. It's not. And you can't tell me that it's an advantage to have more money, and it probably is. But the results of who's competing late in October every year tells a different story than that. Okay, it's been 43 years since the last time the two richest franchises in baseball, the two richest franchises in American sports, have met in the World Series, the Dodgers and the Yankees. It's been 43 years since they played in the World Series. And what's even funnier is that these two teams that are, the richest in baseball, they don't even have the highest payroll in baseball this year. It's the Mets who didn't make the World Series. Okay, baseball is just an incredibly interesting sport, and the whole no salary cap thing, I think, kind of feeds into that. But richer doesn't always equal better in the world of baseball, and I think history proves that to us. Right? When you look at the lack of success from the Yankees in the last 15 years and the lack of success from the Dodgers in the last 15 years. The one year that they won the World Series, it was the COVID year, and it was really weird, and it was only a 60-game season. Richer doesn't always equal better in baseball, and I think that history proves that to us. It's Friday, so that means we're doing Funless Friday. And with the World Series starting up tonight, I wanted to do the three most important aspects of this Yankees versus Dodgers series. Zack Gray, he's joining me at 11. He's not only going to give bets, he played college baseball, played some pro baseball, so we're going to talk World Series as well. I'm going to run these by him. But I think the three most important aspects of the Yankees and Dodgers are these. Starting off with number 3, the Dodgers starting pitching. The strength of the Dodgers is their bullpen, right? Their starters are averaging 4 2/3 innings pitched per game in the postseason. Okay, that isn't great. Okay, and I think that the Dodgers are going to look to rush to their bullpen. But here's the thing about a long 7-game series, is that when you're facing as many good hitters as the Yankees have, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Giancarlo Stanton, Gleyber Torres, it's important to hold your cards a bit. I remember in 2016, when the Cubs won the World Series, I knew that they'd win Game 7 because they were going to face Corey Kluber for the third time in 7 games. Okay, he was the starter in Game 7 for the Guardians. I believe they were still called the Indians at the time. And when you see a pitcher that many times in such a short period of time, the advantage shifts to the offense. It shifts to the batter, right? You just tend to have more success the more that you see a guy. That's why teams pull starting pitchers after they've gone through the order twice. Because once you see a guy, once a pitcher goes, into their third time through the order, batting averages go up a pretty decent amount, right? Because you've seen the guy, you find a rhythm, you know what the fastball looks like, you know what the slider looks like. It just becomes easier. And for the Dodgers, while their bullpen is great and is amazing, and they've got a ton of arms in there, they need to avoid going to their bullpen too early to avoid this same scenario of it's Game 7 and it's Aaron Judge's 4th time seeing Michael Kopech. Okay, the Dodgers need to avoid that. And if they continuously go to their bullpen too early, like they've done throughout the postseason, that could be an issue for them the later the series goes. They need their starting pitchers to have some success against this Yankees lineup so they don't reveal their cards too early in the series with this dominant bullpen that they have. That probably won't happen because the Dodgers starting pitchers have a combined ERA of 4.36 in the postseason, and they're doing a 3-man rotation. But it would be a major lift for the Dodgers if their starters could eat a couple extra innings, right? Instead of going 4 2/3, if they could go, 5 1/3, 5 2/3, like that would, I think, pay real dividends for them. Maybe not early in the series, but when you get to Game 7, I really think that it would help the Dodgers tremendously. The second most important aspect of this Yankees and Dodgers series is the Yankees bullpen. For the Yankees, they are built differently than the Dodgers. They have a much better rotation than the Dodgers. Garrett Cole is one of the best pitchers in postseason history. Garrett Cole is one of 4 starters in the history of baseball to start 20 postseason games and have an ERA under 3. Okay, he's going tonight, and I like the Yankees to win tonight because he's on the mound. Okay, he's going to go 6, maybe 7. Okay, and then you look at the rest of the starting pitchers that the Yankees have. It's Carlos Rodon. He's nasty. Clark Schmidt would undoubtedly be one of the top 3 starters for the Dodgers. And then Nestor Cortez, I believe he is returning from injuries, and he's going to slide into this rotation. Okay, the Yankees have significantly better starting pitching, but their bullpen, not as good as the Dodgers, right? And as we know, this Dodgers lineup is littered with good hitters. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Max Muncy, right? Like they've got a bunch of dudes who can really swing it. Okay, so the Yankees, the question for them is going to be, can this bullpen bring it home? Now, their bullpen isn't bad by any means, but I just don't see the Yankees starting pitching being why they lose this series. If the Yankees lose, it'll be because they failed to get big outs late, and that often falls on the bullpen. The most important aspect of this series, though, as it is with every series, is the stars. Okay, like baseball's different from basketball and football, and the game's slower paced, and there's a ton of analytics and all these things. Right? It's part of what makes baseball unique. But there are certain things that overlap in every sport in terms of what is important. And like every other sport, baseball is about stars. That's ultimately what it's about. If Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani continue to be on fire, okay, like if Shohei Ohtani in his next 22 at-bats with runners on base, if he goes 18 for 22 in those at-bats, the Dodgers are going to win this series. Okay, like if Shohei Ohtani continues to hit the way he's been hitting, like the Dodgers are going to win. And if Mookie Betts keeps it up as well, then they're probably going to win. Right? And then for the Yankees, if Giancarlo Stanton continues to hit moon balls every time he goes up to the plate, then they're probably going to win. And if Juan Soto continues to be awesome, then like they're probably going to win. Okay? Like that's just kind of how these things work, right? Like the stars are going to ultimately determine the outcome of this series. And hopefully the four players that I just mentioned continue to swing it well. And hopefully Aaron Judge gets going. And hopefully Freddie Freeman, who's nursing that ankle injury, hopefully he gets it going as well. Okay, like there's so many stars in this Dodgers-Yankees, World Series. And it's part of why, like, as much as I don't like the Dodgers and as much as I hate the Yankees, it's why I'm excited for it. Like, we haven't had a star-studded World Series like this in a while. And I hope all these big-time baseball stars show up and play well because I love baseball and I want more people to love baseball. It is, the best sport on the planet when guys are locked in and playing well. Okay, that is the reality of it, right? Like I want Aaron Judge and Giancarlo and Juan Soto and Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani to all hit 400 in this series. I want them to swing the crap out of the bat. I want bottom of the ninth, runner on second, down by one, Mookie Betts or Juan Soto with the plate, and I want it just to be fun and intense. And the intensity of a series goes up when stars produce. Okay, and I want the outcome of this series to be dependent on the stars, not some guy a casual baseball fan's never heard of. Okay, like that is what I want the series to be about because a series in any sport, a playoff game in any sport is just better when the stars play well, right? Like watching Peyton Manning and Tom Brady go at it in the AFC Championship game. Like it's so much more fun watching those games when Peyton Manning throws for 300 yards and Tom Brady throws for 300 yards as opposed to both teams running the ball a ton. Okay, so I am incredibly excited for the World Series. I think it's going to be an absolute blast. I'm going to take the Dodgers to win the series. I think they're just better. I think they've got just a little bit more firepower, right, in terms of the bats that they have, right? Like obviously when you look at the big three in terms of the stars, the plate for each of these teams, pretty similar, right? Like Judge, Stanton, and Soto, that's their 2-3-4. That's an insane 2-3-4. And then the Dodgers have something similar going with Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman. I like the Dodgers big three a little bit more. I also like the other guys a little bit more, like the Max Muncies of the world. So really like them and everything that they've got going on. The bullpen, baseball's just turned into this bullpen dependent game, which is fine. I personally love seeing starting pitchers walk out to the mound and not give the ball up until like the 8th inning. Okay, so going to be very interesting. So I like the Dodgers in that aspect as well. Their bullpen's just better. Just is. It's been incredible, right? They've thrown multiple shutouts throughout the postseason against really good lineups. Like this Dodgers team, man, like they just have a ton of guys, a ton of arms that are going to come in and throw 100 and then throw breakneck sliders right behind it. So That's what I like. I'm taking the Dodgers in 7. Dodgers in 7. Okay, the cross country series because we're going from LA to New York is going to be a blast. Can't wait to watch these games. Zack Gray, he's joining me here in the next segment at 11 o'clock. We're going to talk World Series, but before we do that, we're going to talk NFL bets, college football bets. There's college football tonight. There's obviously, Indiana playing Washington tomorrow. Going to get his thoughts on the Hoosiers. Indiana, 6.5-point favorites against Washington. Give me Indiana. Take Colts, 5.5-point dogs on the road against the Texans on Sunday. Give me the Colts to cover, but the Texans to win, right? Because those, every division game is close, right? And that's just the reality of it. So give me the Colts to cover there. Give me Indiana to win and cover tomorrow. Can't wait to have Zach on. He's set to join me here in about 5 minutes or so. So thanks for tuning in to The Real Jonathan Smith Show. When we come back here in 5 minutes, Zack Gray, the best sports gambler I know, he's going to join the show. We're going to talk not all the games, a lot of the games coming up this Saturday, this Sunday, and we'll talk a little World Series as well. Zack Gray joins the show when we come back here in 5 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. It's 11 o'clock. It's a Friday, which means the one and only Zack Gray at ZG the Grapevine on Twitter joins the show. Zach, what's going on, man?
Jay Smith, it's Friday. That means that it's the weekend. It also means I get to talk to my near and dear great friend. So thank you for having me on.
Dude, always, man. Always. All right. You've got limited time today. So let's jump into these bets. What's your favorite NFL bet for the weekend? Zack Gray, professional sports gambler. Head over to ZG the Grapevine. Check out his Patreon, which is in his bio, to get the tools you need to make winning bets. What's your NFL bet for the week?
Yeah, I had a couple different candidates for this, but I think for today, I think I'm going to hit Tampa Bay plus 2.5 at home against Atlanta. I understand why the Buccaneers are dogs here, but I just have them winning outright in my projections, and I think we still kind of underrate, that entire team. I know Godwin went out with that horrific injury, and I know things are a little worse offensively, but Baker Mayfield has been doing it all year. I believe in Todd Bowles' defense. And you never know what you're going to get from Atlanta. I know that narrative is still kind of out there, but, going on the road, playing a good team, I just don't see Atlanta walking out of there with a W.
That makes sense. I have to ask your opinion on this week's Kirk Cousins bet of the week, which is where we take a road dog on the money line to go into someone else's trap and take over their trap. I like the Arizona Cardinals plus 3.5 on the money line against Miami. What does your projection kind of say about that game?
Yeah, and I love this segment, by the way.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, I actually have the same thing. I don't know if they'll win outright, but I do have the Cardinals covering in my projections. The Dolphins are just like way worse than I thought they would be, even without Tua. So yeah, it's just kind of shocking. I know the Dolphins are your team, but yeah, it's just kind of gross, honestly.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think that there's like this expectation of Tua's back, and so everything's going to be okay, even though things weren't okay when he played against the Bills, and they weren't okay when he played against the Jags. So I really like the Cardinals there. For college football, I got to be honest. I like Indiana minus 6.5 against Washington. What's kind of the college football bet that you really like this week?
Boy, you're reading my mind. It was going to be IU minus 6 there.
Let's go.
I don't care that Curtis Rourke's out. That team is the real deal on both sides of the ball at every position group. They're like a little Ohio State light, as I like to refer to them as.
Nice.
And I think that Washington is Jekyll and Hyde, and their good isn't that good. So I think Indiana, definitely at home. I think game day's there, right?
They are.
Yeah, it's Indiana minus 6. If we really believe in Sigs and this team, this is a spot where they prove it again, and they'll keep proving it and proving it. Every time you give them a chance against a team they should beat. So yeah, Indiana minus 6. I'm all over it, Jay Smith.
Let's go.
Also, this is the second week in a row. I've rode with an Indiana team on the show. We went 1-0 with the Colts last week, so hoping to make it 2-0 with the Hoosiers this week.
I like the Colts plus 5.5. Since you brought them up, do you also like them plus 5.5 against Houston?
I do not.
That's not a surprise. Houston's good. They're really banged up. That's kind of why I like them plus 5.5. But with that being said, like Stroud's way better than Richardson, so that's really all you need to say for me to be like, yeah, that makes sense,
Yeah, and the thing is I was texting you during that the Colts game, and I was just like, this is a miserable watch. This is torture. And they ended up pulling it out, but it's just one of those things where, yeah, I'm sorry, Indy listeners. I'm out on Richardson. I just don't think it's ever going to kind of click for him.
You're not the only one.
A freak athletically, toolsy, all that good stuff that we all want to see. But at the end of the day, like, quarterbacks is more than that, and you just don't see the down to down, game to game development that you would want to see out of a guy that's eventually going to break through.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I'm still holding out hope. I like all the tools, you know that. But anyway, joined by Zack Gray, professional sports gambler. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine. If you check out the link in his bio, it'll take you to his Patreon where he supplies not only his picks, but tools for you to make good picks and to elevate your gambling abilities. He's currently putting out a bunch of NBA stuff for free, which is great. We cashed the under on Pistons and Pacers the other night, so check those out as well. I wanted to ask you your expectations for the Pacers this year, but also I know you said that you had an NBA bet that you wanted to put out there as well.
Yeah, so as far as the Pacers go, it's going to be hard for them to kind of keep that same pace that they had last year. I know they have a really good team, and they brought everyone back, right? Is there a piece that's missing?
What's his name? Jalen Smith. That's it.
So no. It's one of those things, right, where we obviously have the Celtics, and then do we really have like a firm and true belief in anyone else? Like, we know there's good teams in the East. We know the Knicks have one of the best starting fives, but there's questions about their depth. We know the issues with Milwaukee. The Magic could kind of take that next step that they after last year, but like, why couldn't the Pacers kind of do the same thing and make a run for the Eastern Conference Finals? I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all.
I don't think it is either. And look, like, the thing is, how good is Benedict Mathurin going to be? He looked great against the Pistons the other night. And did Jarris Walker get better? I think they need those two guys just because defensively, I think they both project really well. And that was kind of the issue last year.
And I know we've talked about this. We talked about this a lot last year. And it was kind of like we had two different stories kind of converging toward the end of the season. When I was on early in the NBA season, we were like, Halliburton's, the next one. He's next up. And then that second half happened, that hamstring injury. And we were like, ooh, like, what are we seeing here? And then the playoffs came around and we were like, okay, Halliburton's back. It really is going to come down to the consistency of him being able to carry a team. Because at the end of the day, you got Miles Turner. You've got the pieces around him that are really good and could start on every single NBA team. But I think we can all agree that this team goes as Halliburton goes. And if he is up and down, then the Pacers will be up and down. If he's having, off nights on defense, the Pacers will probably have off nights on defense. So it's really important for me to kind of see how he leads the team.
Yeah, that makes sense. Joined by Zack Gray, professional sports gambler. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine. Check out his Patreon in his bio. So people are really excited about the Knicks. And then I watched the Knicks play the other night, and they were running guys out on the floor that I've never heard of, which says a lot considering how much, that I watch way too much hoops. Anyway, I stayed up till 1 a.m. last night watching the Kings and the Wolves play. So, real sicko over here. Anyway, I don't think the Knicks are deep enough. Like, obviously, like, it's game 2 tonight. Like, there's plenty of time left for them to figure things out. How do you kind of feel about them just looking forward to the whole year?
I'm assuming you're talking about, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Dadiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jericho Sims, Tyler Kolek, Campaign, Miles McBride, and this Dadiet guy. That's who played off the bench for them their first game, I believe. That ain't getting it done, Jay Smith.
No, it's not. It's not.
Like, we can talk about their size and athleticism and their ability to stretch the floor with their starters, but what did we say about you can name hundreds of teams throughout the years that were really good with their starting five and had really top end talent, and then all we talked about was they need to add a depth piece, or they don't have the depth. What's going to happen when one of the stars has an off night? Or like, it's a tale as true as time, and we just looked past that kind of. I feel like NBA fans were so enamored with the fact that they got Karl Anthony Towns and re-signed Anunoby and Bridges, and this starting five is great, but you're bringing Jericho Sims off the bench.
That's right.
And I know Mitchell Robinson isn't playing right now, but like, it's still, even if you have him back, what your second best bench player is maybe a second year Tyler Kolek. Miles McBride is good, but he obviously has a ceiling. But if we're looking at this bench, like, what do we like? Do we like Precious Achiuwa? Like, great 11th, 10th man, but that's a guy that is probably going to play significant minutes when he gets out there. So It's just kind of, I know some Knicks fans that felt this way when that trade happened, and I just felt like the story in the media was kind of like, holy cow, the Knicks are here. And then, you watch them play their opening night and you see it right away, immediately.
Well, they got the recency bias bump. It was the last big move made in the offseason. It happened when nothing else was going on. And so I think people just got overly excited about it because of that. Earlier, when you gave us your college football bet, you spoke pretty highly there of Indiana. And I have to ask, as an Ohio State fan, how much does Indiana scare you?
0%, to be honest.
Fair enough. Is it just Ohio State is probably the best roster in the country, and there's just a lot of faith in that?
I mean, I think we're talking about two different levels here. I think Indiana's great for, where they are, but we really think that that year one here, they have just turned into a top 5 team in college football. Like, they're going to make a bowl. They might have a shot at the playoff, but do we really think they're competing with the best of the best this year? I don't think so.
I'm inclined to agree just because I haven't seen them do it. Joined by professional sports gambler Zack Gray. Follow him on Twitter at ZG the Grapevine. Check out his Patreon in his bio. He's also an Ohio State fan, so he's the perfect person to talk to about this. They haven't. I'm with you. I am. Look, when Ohio State plays Indiana, I'm going to pick Ohio State. Probably going to bet on Ohio State, just because we haven't seen Indiana do it against really good teams. With that being said, what they did to Nebraska last week is what I feel like Ohio State and Georgia and Texas would have done to Nebraska. You know what I mean?
Sure. But that's a 1 game sample. I mean, they played Northwestern pretty tight for most of the game. They were playing Maryland tight for most of the game. I know they kind of pulled away and the score doesn't indicate that, but I'm pretty sure both of those games were pretty deadlocked, either at the end of the third going into the fourth or in the fourth quarter. If I'm remembering correctly, it might've been earlier than that, but those games were close and then they pulled away. So it's not like, I know they're scoring a bunch of points. They've scored 40 plus, I think, all year. But at the same time, it's UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern, and then Nebraska is probably the best team they played. And I think you can be honest about that. That was just one of those instances where the ball started rolling down the hill and just didn't stop. And those games kind of happen in college football. I don't know if I think the old saying is you're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. I think that saying can apply for both Nebraska and Indiana last Saturday.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Moving on to another team that people are excited about. Vanderbilt have any shot tomorrow to beat Texas? I really hope so.
No way.
The fact that I'm even asking the question is insane. But look, Texas is better than Alabama. I think we all kind of realize that now. But it's just I don't know, they beat Alabama at home. They scored a boatload of points. They're kind of hard to stop. I like their quarterback. I don't the reason why they beat Alabama is because Alabama turned the ball over twice, right? Texas would have to do something like that, but I'm so excited for that game tomorrow.
Lightning is not going to strike twice.
But what if Vanderbilt's legitimately good? What are the chances? Do you think Vanderbilt covers? They're 3 touchdown underdogs, I believe. Do you think they cover?
I think it's right on the number. I think my projection has it right on the number. So I don't know. Nope. Actually, I have Texas covering. So yeah, I mean, the model, I didn't bet on it. Obviously, there's not enough of an edge for me, but are we really sitting here asking if Vanderbilt is actually good enough? I get it's a great story. I know they added I know the coach came from New Mexico State, brought his quarterback, brought some other guys. They're way better than what we are typically, familiar with Vanderbilt football. But yes, they had an upset win, but they lost to Georgia State at home, Jonathan.
That's true. This is true. Hey, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are, right? So let's no, that's an excellent point. And plus, Coach Sark coming off a loss at home, I'm not betting against him at all. No way.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's weird. I think we're going to have, even me, like as someone who is ready for this new age of college football, I still think I'm having trouble adjusting to how I'm supposed to view some of this stuff this season.
Yeah.
To me, these losses, like, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, like, to me in the moment for all of those teams, I think that everyone was like, this is doomsday. This is worst case scenario. And then the next week comes and now you're like, oh, well, it's not. Like, there's still literally everything is still up in the air. And that, the 12-team playoff kind of plays a role in that. So, like, the perception of a loss for me has still not, like, transitioned into this new age of college football.
Yeah, and I think once we get, like, the first CFP ranking and we have the first tournament and we see how the committee weighs losses, I think it'll kind of help us figure out how all that works. Joined by professional sports gambler and friend of the program, Zack Gray. Follow him on Twitter at ZG The Grapevine. You can check out his Patreon linked in his bio. So something that's been of major contention on Twitter, people going at it, LeBron and Bronny, the moment that made history, I thought it was cool. I guess other people thought it was manufactured. You being a longtime LeBron guy, how did you kind of feel, not only about the moment, but kind of how people have perceived it?
Of course it was manufactured. And of course it was cool. Like, why can't people just have that? Why can't people see both of those things for what they are? It was awesome to see. But yeah, it was 100% manufactured. They came into the game together, Jonathan. Obviously it was manufactured.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool. Like, I was sitting there and I'm assuming you watched.
Yeah, had to.
Like, the energy in the building when they were both on the floor together, I would be willing to bet there has never been energy in a building during a game one of an NBA season like that before. It was so cool.
Yeah, and there is stuff like that, like where, not father-son, but there are moments throughout seasons in every sport where a decision is made to get something done, like a stat or a record or whatever the case may be. We see that all the time. And this is, again, I kind of have this underlying, feel for how things are perceived in sports media. There's always hypocrisy underlying with certain people in the sport. Like, LeBron is one of them. Like, we have never talked about someone going for a record or getting a stat for a triple double or whatever the case may be, as much as we've talked about this. And we only talk about LeBron like this because we consider him the best basketball player of all time. Whether you admit that to yourself or not, you hold him to a standard that no one else in the world has had to hold their feet to the fire to. So, like, that's my thing. Like, and this is like the same thing I think about with, like, Colorado and Dion and all these others. Like, we don't ever feel this way when this happens in another scenario with the same type of setting.
Yeah, that's a totally fair point. I'm with you. I thought the moment was cool. I hope they keep playing together. But I think we're going to see Bronny in South Bay. That's kind of what
why is it bad? Why is it bad if your parents help you? When did we turn that into a bad thing?
Hey.
That our parents are there for us and that they help us, get through life. Like, isn't that the whole point?
Yeah, that's a great point. This is why we have you on, man, because you're just a smart guy.
It's just ridiculous. I just can't. And it's not just like I said, there's other things that I feel this way about, but it's like, yes, of course it was manufactured. This is not the first manufactured moment in sports history, and certainly won't be the last. And yes, it was insane to see that happen. And then the fact that the Griffey Jr. and Griffey Sr. are there, like, the whole thing is just awesome, and you'll never see it again.
Yep. Look, I don't care if it's manufactured or not. The NBA has been around for 78 years. This is the first time it's happened. It's incredible.
Enjoy it. Relish it.
Thank you.
Whether you like it or not, it's history. And, like, that's just cool.
I totally agree. Last thing before I let you go, World Series starts tonight. To all the baseball haters out there who say that it needs a salary cap, You're wrong. This is the first time the two richest franchises in the sport have met in the World Series in 43 years. I like the Dodgers. Who do you have winning the World Series?
Yeah, I like the Dodgers too.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be how it shakes out. But does anyone want a free NBA bet tonight?
Of course.
All right, we're gonna go up north of the border here. We're gonna go Philadelphia Sixers Raptors over 219.5.
There you go. So Sixers Raptors over 219.5 tonight. You like IU minus 6.5. And then I didn't write down your NFL bet because I'm dumb. What was that one?
It was Bucks plus 2.5.
Bucks plus 2.5. Love it, Zach. Thanks for your time, man. We always appreciate it. You're a blast to have on as always.
Yep. See you, brother. Thank you.
See ya. You got it. That is the great Zack Gray. Follow him on Twitter at ZG. The Grapevine. Check out his Patreon. He does just an excellent job. He not only gives you bets, but he gives you tools to make better bets on your own. He does just an incredible job. Colts, Texans, that game coming up on Sunday. It's a big one. Indiana, Washington tomorrow as well. I'm going to give you my prediction for the Colts and the Texans. I'm going to tell you why the Colts have a good chance to win on Sunday when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Often imitated, never duplicated. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Tickets, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Hope you've had a nice week. I know I have. It's Friday. Weekend's almost here. Let's wrap this weekend up, or week up right, and then let's have a good weekend. Let's get an Indiana win tomorrow. Let's get a Colts win on Sunday. I don't know if you watched Thursday Night Football last night. And I promise I'm going to move into the Colts game, but I got to set the stage first. I don't know if you watched Thursday Night Football last night, but the Rams looked like an entirely different team against a good Vikings team, right? Like the Rams were 2-4. Coming off 3 straight games where they didn't score more than 20 points. And then last night, against a good Vikings defense, they scored 30 points. Okay? And the answer as to why this happened is obvious. It's because Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp returned to the lineup. Now they're 3-4 with a real chance at not only making the playoffs, but winning their division, right? Like they're 1 game out of first place. Seahawks currently hold, the lead in that division, and the Rams play them twice going forward. Okay, so they're finally healthy and they look like a much better football team because of that. And then staying out west, the 49ers are currently 3-4 on the year. And it's not because their roster isn't good. It's because Christian McCaffrey hasn't played all year. And now Brandon Ayuk's out for the rest of the year. And Deebo Samuel's missed some time. And they're just really banged up. And they're dealing with injuries. And injuries are the most important aspect of any sport in any game. The Pacers made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, in part because other teams got hurt while they mainly stayed healthy. Obviously, Mathurin got hurt, missed the rest of the year with the torn labrum. Halliburton got hurt late against the Celtics. But the point still stands. Injury plays a major role in every game for every team in every single sport. Move it over to baseball. Imagine if Garrett Cole got hurt for the Yankees and didn't play in the postseason. They probably wouldn't be in the World Series, right? Which starts tonight, by the way. Okay, and I say all that. I bring up all these examples of injuries to talk about the Colts and the fact that they're 5.5-point underdogs against the Texans on Sunday, and that number doesn't feel right with all of the injuries that Houston is dealing with, while the Colts are continuing to get healthier. That line should be closer to 2.5, in my opinion. Okay, the Texans have several starters on IR. That includes their best receiver in Nico Collins. Then, when you look at their injury report for the week, as of yesterday, they've got 4 starting defenders who didn't practice. The Texans are not healthy. Then, you compare that to the Colts. They're getting healthy. Everyone listed on the injury report for the Colts this week was a full participant, except for 2 guys, Jannard Avery and Jalen Carleys. Those are 2 guys that normally don't play a ton when the starters are healthy. The Colts currently appear to be the healthier team heading into this game, and that's a big deal because in the NFL, the team that wins, the Super Bowl definitely, but just in general, it's not always the better team. Usually it's just the healthier team. And for the Colts, having DeForest Buckner and Jonathan Taylor return to action this week would be huge for them. The Colts need DeForest Buckner back with how bad this defense has been. This is one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. That's what he's been these past few years. Okay, he was a full participant in practice yesterday. He's clearly progressing in a positive direction, and getting him back would be a huge boost for this Colts defense. Okay, and so would having Jonathan Taylor, right? He would provide a huge boost to this Colts offense. He was a full participant in practice yesterday. He's coming off that high ankle sprain. And look, if these 2 guys come back, the Colts are significantly better. These are 2 of the best players on the Colts roster. DeForest Buckner makes that defense better. Jonathan Taylor undoubtedly makes this offense better. Okay, and so getting those guys back, plus EJ Speed and the other guys who have been out missing games, would be huge, especially if the Texans are going to miss some of their more important players. Okay, the healthier team, which the Colts seem to be as of right now, always has a chance to win. Okay, so the Colts, like, they're going to have an opportunity to win this game on Sunday just because they're healthier. Here's the thing, though. If you want to say, Jonathan, that all makes sense. But the Texans have the better quarterback. I cannot argue that. Okay, C.J. Stroud, even though he's coming off of a bad game against Green Bay, is clearly the better quarterback. And the team with the better quarterback always has a chance to win. So something has to give here. Okay, and I don't know how you fix injuries if you're Houston. And like, that's going to play a role, but obviously so is Stroud. The thing, though, that gives me more hope about the Colts having a legitimate chance to win this game on Sunday is that the Houston Texans have struggled mightily to protect C.J. Stroud all year. He's been sacked 20 times this year, which is the third most in the NFL. This is a Colts defensive line that is built to get after the quarterback. Chris Ballard has made that clear. It's why he's drafted an edge rusher in the first round, which feels like every single year since he's shown up. Okay, and the Colts got after C.J. Stroud in week 1. They sacked him 4 times, and they hit him another 10 times. Okay, so out of the 32 dropbacks that C.J. Stroud had in week 1 against the Colts, he got hit in some capacity on 14 of them. Okay, now this Colts defensive line, it's not entirely healthy, right? Tyquan Lewis is still on IR. DeForest Buckner returning from injury. He might be on a snap count. But either way, the Colts should still have enough guys with the depth, especially if DeForest Buckner is back, to impact how C.J. Stroud plays on Sunday like they did in week 1. Okay, this is a great opportunity for this Colts defense to kind of change the narrative around their team. Gus Bradley came out this week during his press conference on Tuesday, and he said that he felt like they have corrected some of the defensive issues that they've had throughout the year, and they have an opportunity to really prove that on Sunday, because I'm sorry, but holding the Titans to 17 points and holding the Tyler Huntley-led and Tim Boyle-led Dolphins to 10 points doesn't exactly prove to me that you've gotten better. Sorry, it just doesn't. So this Colts defense has an opportunity to show how much they've improved throughout the year. Now, obviously, even if the defense plays well, the offense has to show up too. And with Jonathan Taylor hopefully coming back, even if he's on, a snap count, this offense is going to be better because Jonathan Taylor is the Texan killer. He's torn them up his entire career. In 7 games, he's rushed for just under 900 yards and 8 touchdowns with the yards per carry of 5.7. Jonathan Taylor eats the Houston Texans alive. And having him next to a guy in Anthony Richardson is a good thing for this Colts offense. Okay, those two guys together in the backfield is really tough to stop, especially when it comes to running the football, which is imperative for this Colts team because, as we all know, Anthony Richardson, not the most consistent passer in the world. If the Colts can run the ball consistently, which Jonathan Taylor's playing seems like a real possibility, then they're going to be harder to beat. Okay, but the NFL is not a running league. The NFL, you better be able to throw the football if you're going to win games. So we all know what this is going to come down to. Anthony Richardson has to play well. He doesn't have to be great, okay? With the Texans being injured, I don't think that their offense will be as prolific, and their defense has more injuries than their offense. So the Colts should find ways to move the football. Like, this isn't a week where I need Anthony Richardson to throw the ball 35 times for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not what the Colts need from him to win this game, especially if he runs the ball well like he did last week. He just has to do the thing that Colts fans have been begging for him to do. Okay? He just has to do the thing that has led to Colts fans calling for Joe Flacco to start games. He's just got to complete the 3rd and 4 out route to Josh Downs to keep drives alive. Okay? Look, I don't expect him to convert every 3rd down, and I don't expect for Anthony Richardson to be pinpoint accurate on every play. Even Mahomes doesn't do that. But if he can just be a little bit more efficient on 3rd down, the Colts can convert 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, then the Colts are going to win this game. I have no doubt that the Colts are going to find a way to create some explosive plays in the passing game. They did that at an unbelievable level in their week 1 matchup against Houston. And if Jonathan Taylor plays, then you got to load the box so that the Colts get run the ball and all those fun things. Okay. So they're going to create and hopefully hit on a couple big plays. The question is, can Anthony Richardson make the layups? That's the question. And that's the question for the Colts going into every game that they play, no matter who they're playing. Okay. So if he can do that, the Colts are going to win, but that's not a given. Okay. I like the Colts' chances to win this game, given how much healthier they are than Houston. But I'm taking the Texans to win. They have the better quarterback. And when I don't know who to pick, I'm taking the team with the better quarterback. I think CJ Stroud is going to make a couple extra plays that Anthony Richardson won't, and that'll be the difference. Even though I like the Texans to win, I like the Colts to cover. Texans win 24-20. So even though it feels like the Colts are probably going to disappoint us on Sunday, I don't think that's the case with Indiana. I'm going to tell you why they're going to beat Washington when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Welcome back to The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Hope you've had a nice week. Thanks for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, it's always greatly appreciated. Hopefully you're headed down to Bloomington tomorrow. Check out game day. Actually, you know what? No, don't do that. What am I talking about? Go to Bourbon and Birdies. Go to IndySportsTicket.com. Check out our tickets for Bourbon and Birdies, okay? Look at the long list of bourbons that we're going to have there. Okay, there's going to be food there as well, okay? All is included in the purchase of your ticket. The event takes place at Back 9. You also get an hour in a bay to hit golf balls. It's going to be just an absolute blast. I can't wait. I'm going to be there. Dan Dockich is going to be there. His show starts here in about 20 minutes. He'll be on from noon to 3. So it's going to be a good time. You should totally come out. They're going to have the Indiana game up on all the TVs. It's going to be a blast. And Indiana is a 6.5-point favorite on Saturday, despite Curtis Rourke being out. And there's going to be a lot of attention on Taven Jackson. He's a young and talented backup quarterback. I think people are excited to see him play football, especially given how well he played against Nebraska when he came in. I think he's going to handle the game well, and I think he's going to play well, but I don't think it's going to matter how he plays because the Washington Huskies don't defend the run very well. They're giving up 143 rushing yards a game, which is 15th in the Big Ten. Okay. Your Indiana Hoosiers are averaging 202 rushing yards a game, which is 3rd in the Big Ten. I expect for Indiana to line the football up and just kind of run Washington over. Say, hey, guys, welcome to the Big Ten. We play big boy football here. Not like what y'all were doing over there in the Pac-12. No, this is real football, and they're going to line it up, and they're just going to run it right at them. That is how Indiana is going to generate points in this game. They're going to have a ton of success running the football to a point where I don't think it's going to matter how well Taven Jackson plays. And the other thing is, you don't want to throw the ball against Washington. Washington's giving up the least amount of passing yards per game in the Big Ten. That, combined with a young, inexperienced quarterback in Taven Jackson, doesn't seem like a recipe for Indiana to throw it all over the yard. Now, with that being said, Taven Jackson could come out and have the night of his life. Okay, we've seen backup quarterbacks start games before and just go crazy. Do you remember when DJ Uiagalelei lit up Notre Dame when he was Trevor Lawrence's backup at Clemson back in 2020? Do you remember when Zach Calzada at Texas A&M had the night of his life and beat Nick Saban in Alabama in 2021? And the funny thing is, neither one of those guys ended up being very good. DJ Uiagalelei is on his 3rd team. He's playing at Florida State. They suck. And Zach Calzada now plays for an FCS school called University of the Incarnate Word. That's in San Antonio. Had never heard of that school until I was doing my research last night. But this is one of the cool things about college football. Backup quarterbacks can come into games and just kind of go crazy because you never know what you're going to get, from kids that are 18 to 22 years old every night. Okay. And so there is a world where Taven Jackson shows up and goes crazy against a Washington team that isn't as good as 2020 Notre Dame and definitely isn't as good as 2021 Alabama. So Taven Jackson could come out and be awesome. That is not out of the question. I just wouldn't count on it per se. And that's not a negative statement about Taven Jackson. It's more about how I think Indiana is going to attack the Washington offense defense, and that's going to be through running the football. Why put the ball in a young, inexperienced quarterback's hands when you can just turn around, hand it off, and pick up 5 yards of carry? Why even risk allowing Taven Jackson to potentially have a bad game when you can just hand the ball off and have a ton of success? And I think that that's what we're going to see from this Indiana offense. Okay, they're going to run the ball well, but their defense could struggle a little bit. There are 3 teams in the Big Ten that have outgained their opponents in every game that they've played. Those teams are Indiana, Penn State, and Washington. This could be a high-scoring game. Washington has moved the football well in every game that they've played this year. Okay, like this could be the first time we see this Indiana defense struggle a little bit. Like that is a real possibility. But with that being said, like I have faith in Indiana to get stops because they've been just incredibly impressive this year. But as I said, like this could be the first game where we see the defense struggle in stretches because this Washington team moves the football well. Okay. But obviously, the Indiana defense really good, giving up less than 14 points per game this year. But if they held Washington to less than 14 points, I'd be surprised, to say the least. Okay, this Washington team can really move the ball. They have a good, experienced quarterback in Will Rogers, a guy who's played in the SEC, transferred up from Mississippi State. So I would be surprised if Indiana stifled Washington's offense in a similar fashion to what they did to Nebraska last week. I don't think Indiana's winning this game 56-7 because Washington is a good football team. Okay, I like Indiana to win this game and to cover. They're 6.5-point favorites. I'd be surprised, though, if they didn't win by double digits. Seriously, it would legitimately surprise me. Okay, going on tonight, we got World Series Game 1. Yankees, Dodgers. Can't wait to watch this game, man. Like, first time the Yankees and Dodgers have met in the World Series since 1981. It's been 43 years. The Yankees are in the midst of a 15-year World Series drought. That's unacceptable for those guys up there. The Dodgers won it in 2020, but that was the COVID year. So does it really count? I don't know. It does. It does count. I'm kidding, but it's going to be interesting, right? Like both of these teams have just incredible amounts of star power, right? It's Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and Juan Soto and Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman. Like these are 6 of the best hitters in baseball. And while I can't stand the Yankees and I don't like the Dodgers, I'm excited for this because there's so many stars in this series. And I think the people who watch it are going to have an absolute blast watching how these games unfold. Okay, like there's going to be a lot of big moments late in ball games where there's a real star at the plate, whether it's Judge, Stanton, Soto, Betts, Ohtani, or Freddie Freeman, who hopefully is healthy for this series. Okay, there's the styles are a little different too in terms of the pitching. The Yankees have this really good starting rotation, like 4 deep, like that's what you want for the postseason. They have a good bullpen, but it seems like they lean on their starters a bit more. And then you got the Dodgers, who have a 3-man starting pitching rotation, and they're not pitching very well. They have a 4.36 ERA in the postseason. They're only pitching on average 4 2/3 innings. Like it's all about the bullpen for the Dodgers, while it's all about the starting pitching for the Yankees. And it's so just intriguing, right? Because it's a battle of stars, but there's also this clashing of styles on the mound, which is just going to make for a great series. With that being said, I like the Dodgers. I think their core, like I think Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, I think that's a better core than Soto, Giancarlo Stanton, and Aaron Judge. I also think that this Dodger bullpen has just been on absolute fire since the playoffs started. Like they've thrown multiple shutouts. They've won their bullpen games. Like this bullpen that the Dodgers have is just like there's no really beating it. I mean, it's incredible. So that series starts tonight. Hopefully all the stars play well. Like I want Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Judge, Soto, and Stanton to all hit over 400 in the series. Like that's really what I want. Like if I could pick one thing in this series, I wouldn't pick a certain team to win. I would just pick for those 6 stars to all play incredibly well, because it's going to be fun to watch. In other games happening tonight, the Pacers, they're on the road playing the Knicks. They're 4.5-point dogs. It's game 2, but as someone who loves basketball, like I'm very interested to see how Carlisle kind of manages this. What was a 12-man rotation, now an 11-man rotation, because James Wiseman tore his Achilles against the Pistons. Hopefully he gets better soon. But they're playing the Knicks. Probably going to keep my eye on that big college football game tonight with playoff implications. UNLV, they're playing Boise State. Okay, loser probably doesn't get the group of 5 bid for the college football playoff. So that game's going on. Yeah, just so many sports things happening this weekend, including the NFL on Sunday. And Kirk Cousins, once, he gave the best quote ever 2 weeks ago: walk in your trap, take over your trap. And those wise words spoken by Kirk Cousins a couple weeks ago gave birth to a new segment that we have here on The Real Jonathan Smith Show. It's called the Kirk Cousins Bet of the Week. Essentially, we're just betting a road underdog to go into someone else's trap and take over their trap and win the game.
Walk into your trap, take over your trap was the line he would say. You go into someone else's stadium and you try to assert yourself.
Kirk Cousins right there with just the best quote ever. I freaking love Kirk Cousins. Who doesn't? Right? That quarterback series came out on Netflix, and now everyone loves Kirk Cousins. And I love that he said that. This is a tough week to do this. There are not many road underdogs that I like this week. There's really only two options that I narrowed it down to. Okay, the Cardinals are 3.5-point dogs on the road against the Dolphins, and the Cowboys are 4.5-point dogs on the road against the 49ers. These seem like the two best options. But the official Kirk Cousins bet of the week: walk in your trap, take over your trap. A road team we're taking on the money line. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals against the Dolphins on the money line. The Dolphins are only the Dolphins aren't good. And we all saw it last week, right? When they played the Colts. And I can imagine there's a little bit of pushback of, Tua's coming back. They're going to be better. Here's the truth. The Dolphins weren't very good when Tua played. They scored 20 points against a bad Jacksonville defense. And then week 2, when he got hurt against the Bills, guess what? They were getting thumped before he got hurt. Okay? And the only reason why they scored 20 points in week 1 is because Tyreek Hill made a couple of big plays. Outside of that, they weren't good. They don't run the ball. Tua coming back, will it help? Of course. But will it fix all their problems? Definitely not. Okay? So I think that there's a bit of overhyping of, the Dolphins and Tua because Tua's returning, but I just don't think it's going to make that big of an impact. And look, the Cardinals have a better quarterback. They might have a better coach. I like Jonathan Gannon probably more than I like Mike McDaniel. So better quarterback, probably a better coach. It's hard not to pick the team with the better coach and quarterback combo. Kyler Murray undoubtedly is better than Tua. I don't think I'm going to get much pushback on that statement. So that is our Kirk Cousins bet of the week. We like the Cardinals on the money line to go into Miami and take over Miami's trap. That's going to do it here at The Real Jonathan Smith Show. The Dan Dockett Show's on from noon to 3. Right, head over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Search for The Real Jonathan Smith Podcast. If you missed any part of the show, you can listen to the whole thing there. It'll be up pretty shortly after my show is over. Thanks again for tuning in. Big games tonight. Pacers on the road against the Knicks. That game's always fun to watch. World Series Game 1, that starts tonight. We got a big college football game. For the new listeners who don't know, I am an Arkansas Razorback fan, and PayPal Cal and the Arkansas Razorbacks scrimmage Kansas tonight. Going to be keeping my eye on that. We got college basketball right around the corner. This is just one of the best times of the year to be a sports fan because there's just stuff going on. My wife and I, we're going out on a date. We're going to this awesome Italian restaurant. Can't wait. And then we're going to head home. I'm going to plop my butt down on the couch and watch just a ton of sports. Bourbon and Birdies tomorrow. Hopefully I see you there. You can buy your tickets to that event at indiesportsticket.com. The Dan Dockett Show is coming your way here in 5 minutes.